Welcome, collectors, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Diecast Emporium. In this edition, we're going to be going over another 2021 new release for Diecast Masters. This is the 150th scale Highline Series Caterpillar 150 motor grader. Now, while this is a new model for 2021, this is not exactly a new tooling. If you'll remember, during the middle part of last year, Caterpillar, kind of with their dozers and some of their other equipment, like motor graders, they went through a complete overhaul with the number designation. So actually, as in the real world, the 150 motor grader is technically what the old 140 M3 is, and Diecast Masters did make a 140 M3 model in 150 scale, seen here, about a handful of years ago. So essentially what this is the 140 M3 model reworked, redesigned, and with the new modern hex design graphics scheme, and of course the new 150 trade dress on it. So bear that in mind as we go through the whole review. All right, let's take a look at the box design first as we go through the unboxing. It's item number 85667, 150th scale Cat 150M motor grader. You cut one side with a razor, pop it open. If you're not familiar, all of the Highline series models come in a collectible and equally as protective metal tin inside a nylon bag. You remove that. That gives us our first look at the tin at the top. There you go. Cat 150 motor grader with the new modern hex design. Collectible die-cast scale model. On the back, yet another picture of the real machine at work, as well as some overall machine specifications. Now, this grader in the real world, typically equipped, has a 200 horsepower engine, a blade width of 12 feet, and an operating weight just shy of 44,000 pounds. All right, let's crack open the top. You'll see that there is the latest Diecast Masters Caterpillar catalog inside, and because this is a 2021 release, you will not find the grader inside of this, because this is the 2020 catalog. But what you will find is a single sheet telling you how to remove the top of the cab to put the operator figure in, if you so desire to do that. Speaking of, here is our operator figure, commonly referred to worldwide as Bob. So let's grab the first portion, or the top portion, of the black foam rubber. Here's our grader inside. Carefully lift him straight out. Let's take just a minute. We'll get all the packaging material out of the way. When we come back, I'll show you how to put Bob inside the cab, and then we will start the model review. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this very short break. Welcome back, everyone. As promised, if you would like to put the operator figure inside the cab for a realistic pose of the machine operating, it's pretty simple. You just lift the top of the cab off as such, but you want to be very careful what you grab onto, of course, because there's a lot of detail on top of this cab, and it is a plastic piece. You lift it off just like that. Before we put Bob in, it actually gives you an opportunity to see the detail inside of the machine, including Cat on the back of the seat, some levers, and the instrument panel. So, if you're not familiar with these figures, the operating figures, you can adjust his arms slightly up and down. So if you really wanted to, you can have his arms at a realistic pose around the levers, but for time constraints, we're not going to mess around with that too much. After you have him inside and you're satisfied with his pose, put the cab back on very carefully by simply clicking it down and in. All right, let's start with the details that are on this grader. It is a noticeable step up from the 140 that this model is derived from and that the casting originally came from. You can see that there is bolt detailing on the center of the wheels. Each of the lug nuts are highlighted in black paint. There's some warning decals and tie-down points that are highlighted. Also, all throughout, you will see that there is a huge step up in the detail with the paint and also the lights. There's also lights and grab rails all throughout. On this side, the fender wells are plastic, On the top, you have a warning light, which was present on the 140 grader as well. You also have windshield wipers on all parts of the glass of the cab. Mirrors here as well, which again are plastic. Hydraulic lines going to all of your cylinders. Here's your GPS pods as well. Speaking of different lines, you have a bunch of lines here going to your cylinders. If we turn the machine to the front, once again, you do have fender wells, rubber tires with some realistic tread patterns on it, forward-facing lights. The top of the GPS pods, by the way, are highlighted in some white paint, as you can see there. Other graphics include a yellow warning label here, another warning label here, and the CAT Modern Hex 150 here. This appears to be a tie-down logo right here if you were to pull it on a lowboy. There's also obviously access stairs here to access the cab for the operator. Let's take a look under the grader. There you go, for those that are interested in seeing that kind of thing. All right, let's transition now to the functionality associated with it. This does have a 5-tooth ripper at the rear, so let's start with that. You can lower it to about there, which is underneath the machine. And then you can raise it out of service. The rear two axles do have some oscillation to them, helped along by the fact that they are linked in transverse. You can see that the oscillation is there. It's not necessarily as much as I'd like to see, but at least something is better than nothing. You can also articulate the grader from the back portion here, and then also across the main articulation point as well. The grader also features working steering across the front axle, again, to a limited degree and limited angle, but as I've said before, something is better than having nothing. Turning our attention to the main portion of any grader, and that's the blade movement. You can see that it can be turned. It also can be slid to the right or to the left, angled or angled back, and then obviously dropped to the ground, as you can see here. Also, the front wheels. It is a bit hard to see on camera, but you can slightly angle them so that the grader can be put on a hill and the wheels can still be balanced. So before we end this video, I would be remiss if I didn't put the 140 and the 150 next to each other so that you guys and gals can see the basic differences between the two. So this is the 140, this is the 150. You can see that obviously besides the paint and decal changes, the biggest notable differences obviously are the small subtle details with the changes in the lights, the changes in the decal application, the changes in the slightly darker paint on this one, at least to my eye. But for all other intensive purposes, they are very similar. They are just about the same size. So let's end the video by putting the new 150 on a Diecast Masters lowboy. So we'll bring him in here. Try to get somewhat of a realistic pose here. As you can see, if you wanted to have your grader up on a lowboy, especially the Diecast Masters XL lowboy, it does make an interesting looking pose. As always, I'm Tommy with Diecast Emporium. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any other comments or questions or concerns, please let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, happy collecting, be safe, and I will see you in the next review.